we're not trying to jump around.
Oh, okay.
Remember, I know you are, but you called for
Yeah.
answer a
Well,
question, so
you
I'm
brought
trying
up
to
Fred.
answer.
You brought up Fred Franz. He taught so much wild stuff. I mean, right? He was the president
I
at one
think
time.
you're teaching wild stuff. That's why, because
I
you're
didn't
taking it
teach
out of the
anything.
context. But let's get back to the point now, shall we? So again, in John chapter 21, we have established that the brothers in the first century spread about things that were not true. At least they misunderstood it, we could say. So they didn't have absolute truth. When it comes to doctrinal things, such as even the resurrection, those in Corinth were not teaching others the truth. They needed to be corrected.
No, the leaders were teaching the truth. It was the people, and they were corrected by the apostles and in the scriptures. And if this is all you have, this is so weak. I mean, they're false analogies. It's just very desperate. It's kind of desperate little
I don't find it
verses.
desperate at all.
Yeah,
Again, do you think in the first century, if you were living in Corinth, that you would have became a Christian, as they came telling you, you're at the temple of Apollos, and there you are worshiping, and here comes these Christians, and they start preaching to you. Would you think you would have became a Christian?
The members of a congregation are not, even an elder, or let alone an apostle. So just
wait,
today,
how do you know they're not? They're not elders. How would you know that?
Because Paul ordained elders, and then they ordained others. And this was very early on at Corinth, and Paul was there. I mean, apostles and disciples were the ones who gave the message and discipled those. I highly doubt they were elders. They would be considered heretics by the early church. And that's why 1 Corinthians 15 corrects them. I just don't, it's not really analogous.
So you're telling me they had a congregation without any elders?
No, they did, but I don't think it was those people. Those people were considered heretics. It even mentions Hymenaeus and that other guy, and it says they're heretics. So
okay,
your whole thing is so.
That's in the gospel. That's in John's writing.
Oh, okay.
So we're talking
so your
many years later.
Your whole this is so desperate, and do you?
Again, let's get back to the issue.
It's okay.
Let's get back to the issue.
No,
let's leave out emotional church words such as desperate and is that all you got?
It's okay if you
let's
love.
Get back to the issue.
You
the
love
issue is
the organization.
The apostles were not perfect in the first century. They did have the gifts. We do not have gifts. What is our understanding of the gift of knowledge when that ended? Do you know?
No, this is I know that if you read Christ the Conscience and you know all these things, I mean,
I didn't read the whole book. Why would I? I'm able to see arguments.
You didn't?
I'm able to see arguments.
I thought you said you read it.
When I read a part, like I studied the chronological arguments, and I saw presenting it accurately, he left out information. I don't enjoy eating a whole plate of crap once I realize it's crap.
Okay. Sorry, I just misunderstood that you said that. But since you know,
I did read it. I didn't read every single word. Same with Kingdom of the Cult. I probably read 95% of it. But I mean, Walter Martin, he's another issue. But anyways, a lot of these books, I have the 4 editions of Penton, James Penton. So he's a firecracker. So anyways, but getting back to the issue is the apostles were not perfect in the first century.
Yeah,
However,
it's not an issue that I'm talking about. I'm talking about making pronouncements in the name of Jehovah. And really, we can't get anywhere with this because you just won't really even process what I'm saying.
No.
You try to
slide. Not understanding that we're not claiming perfection.
You try to perfection is the wrong word. They have made inspiration claims using other words.
No, we have not.
Using
we
other.
Have never
excuse me.
Made inspirational claims.
Inspiration.
You're wrong.
They've made many inspiration claims using other
No,
words that
we
mean
have not.
that mean the same thing as inspired. When you say it's from Jehovah to Jesus to you, that's an inspiration claim.
No, it's not.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
We have no ground of even talking about words here because I'm not
There
going to play
is
a word
the difference
game.
between the word influence and control, and you're getting confused with that. We believe we are influenced, and as such, we believe that the influence comes from God. I'll say it with food. When I say a prayer before a meal, I thank my God, Jehovah, for that food, that meal. Now, my wife could have done the hard work in planting the seed. My wife could have watered the garden. My wife could have protected it when the frost came. She could have picked it up. She could have done all this. And yet, ultimately, I give the credit to God. But I also know that the hard work my wife did in planting, producing, watering it, pulling the weeds and everything, and then cooking that meal presented. Now, if there was something wrong and she accidentally put something unhealthy in that, if she was, for instance, pulling a wild carrot and it ended up being hemlock, the fault would be with my wife in doing that. I don't fault God for making hemlock grow. It wasn't purpose to. It wasn't a purpose necessarily to eat. So my point being, my wife has a large share in that meal, but I'll still give credit to God. It's very similar with food produced by the faithful and discreet slave. There's nothing wrong with thanking Jehovah and viewing it as coming from him, because what does James says? Every gift, every good gift comes from where? Where does it come from? Every good gift.
I'm not going to answer a leading question like that because you're still not getting the difference between all these
Every good gift.
all these logical fallacy, false analogies that you keep bringing up.
I'm finding
Your
the
wife
same with
does
you.
not
I'm
claim
finding all or nothing
authority.
thinking.
Your
I'm
wife
finding
does not.
minimization.
Your wife does
I'm
not claim.
finding jumping to conclusions. So I find the same with all or nothing thinking, non sequitur, and everything else. So we both can play this game. But if you answer my question, every good gift comes from where, according to
It has nothing to do with the topic we were talking about. So
it comes from God. The topic, the
it
point
is totally
we've never
unrelated.
claimed inspiration. We've never claimed inspiration.
If I said,
when you understand, when I say a prayer before food that I thank God, it's the very same thing. When I say a prayer before, let's say, a watchtower or whatever, there could be a little hemlock in that. There could be mistakes. But we never claim to be directly inspired from God.
The direction comes from Jehovah.
While you're studying and to apply that shows how far you've come.
There is pages and pages of synonyms.
Now, if you're willing, like you said on the telephone, to really listen and learn, hey, I'm happy to teach you, because you got a long ways to go. But hey, I was there too at one time where I had a long ways to go, and I fortunately had someone helping me through all my questions and issues. So now I've studied it so much that I understand it. But anyways, when you can understand how a person can say a prayer and thank God, then I think you should be able to understand the exact same point that we make when we say it's from God. Food is from God. Even the hemlock, if it was put in, technically is from God. God doesn't want us to eat it, but it's from God. So when you really understand that we're influenced, not controlled, that we're influenced, not inspired, that we're guided, not inspired, then maybe you can start understanding the position and why I have confidence in the organization despite their shortcomings, despite their imperfections, despite the falsehoods that they've taught. And I want to say flip-flop a lot of things, because that is, we have changed our understanding on a lot of things, but given the historical context, not removed, it's understandable, and that's why I like the analogy of the tacking that it's still making progress going forward. Same with CDC. They still make progress, even if they are reversing, changing. It's because of the historical context at that specific time with the information they had available. They make decisions. And it's the same thing that we do as an organization. So when you understand that we do not claim perfection, I think you could better understand why someone would absolutely continue to have faith in the people that God continues to use as they're fulfilling prophecy, such as Matthew 24:14, and preaching the good news of God's kingdom, which I asked you earlier. Is there anyone else? So why do I have confidence? Because first, I know people like you are wrong. You still are saying, trying to imply that we said from the mouth of Jehovah, as if there's no one that can be in between. Like the food came from Jehovah. Your wife couldn't have had a share in planning it and cooking it and preparing it. You said it's from Jehovah. Your wife couldn't have touched it. How could she touch it if it's directly from Jehovah, this food, that meal? She couldn't have cooked it. To me, again, you're telling me logical fallacies, but you don't see the all or nothing thinking. You don't see the black and white. You still with me?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Go on.
Okay. Well, that's great then. So, can you answer this question? Have we ever said that we have inspired words?
Yes, they just use other synonyms so they can look back and say, we never said we were inspired. If I called someone fat and then later, they found out and I said, well, I never said you were obese. So it's really just the same thing. There's pages and pages.
No, it's
There's
not.
pages and pages of inspiration.
It's not.
Could you let me finish one sentence? There's pages and pages of inspiration claims and false predictions in the name of Jehovah, calling things Jehovah's promise and such. Direct messages from angels, messages from Charles Taze Russell from heaven, messages from Jesus. The dates are God's dates, not ours, etc., etc.
You're getting confused with synonyms. So why didn't we use the word inspired if that's what we thought?
Because it makes it easy to, justify it later. Of course.
Oh, so you're saying they were so smart back then.
Yeah.
That they would use all these synonyms to lead to that conclusion, but without saying the actual words.
Right, exactly.
So at least you're admitting, though, we didn't use the word inspired now. So it sounds like we're making progress.
Yeah, it was very
right?
clever. It's very clever, yes.
Okay, so now you're saying it's clever.
Yeah.
It's clever because now we have no evidence that they've ever said they're inspired. So they're super clever.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're making progress. We agree. We've never said they're inspired. So good. So now let's see if we can establish, could the word guidance and influence or words of Jehovah, could that be likened or similar to a person cooking a garden or cooking food from a garden that they grew and dealt and said, this comes directly from my God, Jehovah? Could that be similar, perhaps?
No.
Well, why
not to any logical person. It's a completely false analogy. They're an organization that claims to be God's only channel, and directs by very direct commandments about all sorts of things. Millions of people, they make something new up, and millions of people change their mind.
Okay, so you're not answering my question.
Yeah, it's just such a.
We're talking about food now. Remember?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying no.
And a person has a plate of food.
If you don't,
keep going back
if you don't understand
so
that,
let's go back to the issue.
no, I'm not going to keep doing this.
Please,
no, if you don't understand the difference.
A plate of food is before you, and a person says, this is from God. What are you going to say? Are you going to say, oh, this ain't from God? Or you said this is from God.
A plate of food is like a theological organization that claims only they can interpret the Bible.
We're not talking about a theological organization. We're talking about the expression from God. So I know your mind is so set in this
Yeah.
negativity that it's hard to get out. But we're just trying to talk about the expression from God, okay? From God. What does that mean? You said from Jehovah. This is from Jehovah.
They use
So
many other terms also. Hey, I really have to go, but I'm so glad that you were, open to talking and told me
well,
your
I
point of
doubt your
view.
honesty though. I find
Okay.
it hard to believe that you never.
Yeah.
Hey, where do you live, by the way? Are
There's
you in Michigan?
no, no.
Okay, because
I used to live in Chicago though, which isn't that far from Michigan.
because Greta was a person in Pontiac, Michigan. She ran an organization against witnesses, and we loved
Oh,
having
what was it
meetings
called?
with
I'll
her.
have to, is she still doing it?
I don't know. It was
Oh,
years
okay.
ago that we used to have meetings, and we had meetings with a guy from Chicago. He was a Baptist minister, but it was a Bible student we had, and he brought everything, had all the books. He did
Oh, a
everything he
Bible
could.
student. They still follow Russell. I can't believe it because they distribute
See,
his
there you go
books.
again. You're jumping to conclusions. Bible student doesn't have to mean an
Oh,
International
okay.
Bible Society, IBS. I'm
Oh,
not talking.
okay. Because you
I'm
said
talking.
Chicago. That's kind of what made me think, because I know they have a kind
I
of
know, but you're
headquarters.
jumping to
Yeah, yeah.
conclusions. You're
Sorry.
jumping to conclusions again. I'm not
Okay.
talking about International
Oh,
Bible.
okay. Okay, I'm
I'm
sorry.
talking
Yeah.
about when we study with a person. A lot of witnesses will call them a study. We don't do that. They're students. They're Bible students. We study with them. They're not a student, just like you said, society. We stopped doing that in 2001. We don't use that expression. I know you continue to use it. You used it throughout this conversation. But anyways, going back to the point, this guy, Scott, we would study with, he was Bible student, and Greta and a whole bunch of other, we brought ministers and everything, but we just stuck to one doctrine at a time, such as the Trinity and Mertev. So eventually, he didn't become a witness, but he accepted that we taught the truth on all that. I think he turned out being homosexual. So, but yeah, he accepted the truth of the Bible, that God is in the Trinity, that immortality of the soul doesn't exist, that Christians shouldn't go to war, that the good news of the kingdom would be preached. So all those things, one topic at a time. He used everything he could to fight it, but the truth of God's word won out. So it was a beautiful experience.
Many witnesses become Christians too, born again, because they come to believe that
It's impossible. They're already Christians. They're already Christians.
That only Jesus
So,
is the way, the truth, and the life.
And the life.
And there is
And
no
that's
other name
why
given among heaven whereby we must be saved, and that the Bible doesn't present
Acts 4:12.
the Bible doesn't present coming to Jehovah's organization for salvation. It doesn't use the word organization, and
again,
it warns of
you're
false
jumping
prophets.
all over. The Bible does say we need to be obedient to Christ. So the Bible
Yes,
does say
to
in
Christ.
Hebrews 13:17 that we be obedient to the governors over you, which literally is where the term governing body comes from.
Yeah, no. Governing body is a corporate term. But anyways, hey, thanks for talking to me. It was fun.
Governing body is different than corporation. They're not even on the corporation.
It was super fun.
All right. Well, I hope you actually stop studying the garbage and you listen to some of the things I said.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, hey.
Again, we've never claimed inspiration, but I'm glad you came to that conclusion. You understand it. Hopefully you understand, too, that had we chose to use the word inspired, we could have. So it's very similar to a meal. And once you understand that just like food, you could say comes from God, it doesn't mean that everything's perfect, because human error can be there. Hemlock could be on the plate, and that's still, it comes from God. Everything good, we believe, comes from God, and that's a scriptural princess from James, that every good gift comes down from Jehovah. We believe spiritual food are good gifts.
Yeah, you seem
even if at times there's things that are not 100% accurate. But I am glad you realize we never said anything was inspired. So you have a good day.
You too. God bless you. Thanks for talking.
All right. Take care.
You
Bye.
Too.